And good afternoon. I thank you for your energy. I thank you for your enthusiasm. I thank you for your sense of equality. I thank you for being you. For those of you who know me, I am Orlando Caesar. For those of you who don't know me, I'm still Orlando Caesar. I think it's important to be consistent about these matters. And one of the things that people who know me know about me is if you ask me how I'm doing, I am generally between great and fantastic. Every day. Because I realized a long time ago that it's great to be alive, right? And every day we have a fantastic opportunity to make a difference. Every day we have a fantastic opportunity to live out the meaning of Martin Luther King's dream. Now, I grew up on the west side of Chicago. All right. I am the oldest of 11 kids. My mother was on the 11 by 30 plan. She had 11 kids by the time she was 30. My father was also on that same plan. I asked him one day, Dad, when did you figure out what was causing all this? So, wasn't quick on the uptake. So went to 7 grammar schools, moved to the South Side, went to South Shore High School, downstate to Bradley University, where I have a degree in biology. And then after 32 years of working for AstraZeneca Pharmaceuticals, I decided to retire. And in my retirement, I focused my time and my attention on students and businesses, because I want people to realize the importance of leadership and how that will help us get to where we need to be in life. Now, I have an exercise I'd like for you to do. You may close your eyes if you desire, but what I want you to imagine that we are here in the Hemmons Cultural Center, and the back door opens. Slowly, people start walking in, streaming in, down the aisles. You look at these individuals curiously, and then you notice some of those people look like me. I mean, some of those people look like my relatives. I mean, they are more than acquaintances. The people walking down the aisle are representing your ancestors. You are on the stage as they walk up front. Also in that crowd, filing in, are people that you've seen in your history books. People who are important, people who have struggled, people who have done major things to make life better for others. And among those individuals is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They file down the aisles, they sit up front, and they are there to ask you one question. And that question is, what have you done with the sacrifices, the challenges, the opportunities, the dreams? What have you done with them? Now, you may open your eyes. Now, you may boldly step out and say, because you're proud of the things that you've done, standing on their shoulders. You may recite your educational background. You may recite what you've done on the job and how you've treated people. You may feel very good about that. But then, on the other hand, you may start making excuses and apologies, saying things like, you don't realize how hard it is now. It's not like it was when you were coming along. Things are different now. They listen to your presentation, your answers to the question, and then 2 questions come to mind for them. One, were the sacrifices worth it? And secondly, is there still an opportunity for you to do more, to realize your dreams, the dreams of Dr. Martin Luther King, and the dreams of your ancestors? And we're going to spend the bulk of the time today talking about that. Because my basic premise in order to achieve the dream that's been laid out by your ancestors, that's been laid out by Dr. Martin Luther King, in order to achieve those dreams, it's going to require leadership. It's going to require each and every one of us to unlock our leadership greatness and to be the kind of persons that is necessary in order to make this happen. Make sense? Now, every January, I go through a certain routine in my house. I listen to records of Dr. Martin Luther King's speeches. I do mean records. I mean, I got these LPs about this big, and I put them on the phonograph. I hope it doesn't break. It'll be a hard time to get the needles back. I put them on the phonograph, and I listen to them. After doing that, I go on YouTube, and I watch the speeches. Then I will go through some books and write and read about the speeches to get myself grounded. And one of the things that when you think about Martin Luther King and his speeches, what comes through very clearly is he was a phenomenal leader, a visionary leader. And one of the things that a leader does is cast a vision. Put a dream out there so that you can see it and identify with it and get excited about it. One of the things that a leader does is when they put that dream out there, the idea is for the situation to take you from where you are now, which you may not be happy with, to a place that is better. And in order to unlock our leadership greatness, there are a few things that I think we have to keep in mind. One, we have to be powered by a dream. We have to wake up excited about a dream. Now, it's okay to wake up in the morning and you say, I don't know what I dreamed about last night. That's all right. But it's not okay to walk around during the daytime and not have a dream. You have to have a focus. You have to have a destination. I was thinking about hitchhikers. Imagine if you were a hitchhiker and you didn't have a direction. You just show up and see what's the first car that's there. So you may see that person one day, they're going down one road. You may see them the next day, they're going down another road. If you don't have a direction, if you don't have a dream, you're kind of like going in circles. I'd like for you to do another thing for me. I'm going to ask you questions, a series of questions. And if the answer for you is no, I want you to raise your hand. Okay? Question number one. Is anybody better than you? Okay. Question number two. Does anybody deserve more than you? Okay. You seem to be tracking pretty good. Question number three, which is generally the charm. Is anybody going to work harder than you to get what you deserve? Okay. I like that. Now, I've been in some classrooms when I ask those questions. Is anybody better than you? Well, maybe. Does anybody deserve more than you? Well, I know somebody down the street who might deserve a little bit more than me. But when we talk about it and unpack it, we realize that we are equal. We're all God's children, and we should have the same opportunities to achieve things. Secondly, we have to be students of the game. We have to learn what's going on. Everything has rules and regulations. Everything has a system. We may not like it, but there is a system, and we have to learn the system in order to work within the system. You have to get in the system, understand it before you can change it. And sometimes when you're in the system, you realize that that's not equal. That we're not treating people the way they should be treated. But you can change that when you get on the inside. And you need to find out, what does it take to be on the inside? You need to understand people. That's one of the rules of the game. And people are the hardest thing in the world to try to understand. People ask me all the time, Orlando, how's life treating you? I said, life is not a problem. It's the people. I mean, life allows me to re-up and re-enlist every day. But it's the people that I have to contend with. But we must understand people. And we must understand that people do things differently than we do. And just because they do things differently does not mean that's wrong. Now, I realized once, too, that just because you don't agree with me does not mean I'm wrong. And we have to get that. So we need to be able to study the game, to know it inside and out, know what the rules and regulations are, know what's expected of you. And when you get that, because you want to get that and you want to perform at a very high level. And the third thing I want to talk about is setting high standards. And that's something we, at times, are reluctant to do. I was talking to a class, and so I asked a simple question. All of you who have straight A's, raise your hands. Okay? That's great. That's fantastic. But this classroom that I asked the question of, nobody raised their hands. Everybody's looking around to see who has the nerve to raise their hand. Who's getting straight A's in here? Teacher walked over to one of the students, kind of touched the chair. She raised her hand. I looked at her, I said, young lady, you got straight A's? She says, yes, I do. I said, let me applaud you. You have people out there who are trying to tell you that you should study, that you shouldn't spend time neglecting other things, but focusing on your education. But you listen to your parents, you listen to your ancestors, and you said, I am going to get straight A's, and I applaud you for that. And you should have seen the look on her face. She kind of smiled, back got straight, got smiled, and she started getting the cooperation from people around the room. So I said, okay, next question. Anybody in the room straight B's, but mostly B's? Those hands went up, and they were waving their hands at me because they were feeling pretty good. I said, okay, I like that. Because there's a lot that I can say to you, too, about getting B's. Because you made some of the same sacrifices that the young lady getting straight A's. But I want you to know she's lonely over there. So what can you do to get over there? Because you know that there is another higher place that you need to go. So can we do that? And she said, yeah. So we applauded those students. Then I said, okay, C's. Their hands went up and I just looked up. C. Now you know B's are higher, you know A's are higher, and you sitting back on a C. Now I said, what I want from you is a commitment that you will do better. I said, can I get that from you? And they said, yes. So I said, now let us applaud your intention, your commitment to do better, because I'm not going to applaud you for a C. And so we applauded them. But what was interesting around the room, and I go to many different classrooms and many different schools, is that those who do well don't want to step out and admit that they're proud of doing well. And we kind of flipped the switch a little bit so that those who are doing poorly are trying to run the day. But that's not where we need to be if we're going to realize the dream that Dr. Martin Luther King put out there. We have to have high standards. We have to push ourselves. We have to recognize and realize that excellence is the expectation. Because we were born, and when we were born, there was a whole lot of hype, a whole lot of hope, and a whole lot of high expectations. Everybody knew that you were on the way. Somebody held you in their arms and said, you are my boy. You are my girl. Someday, you're going to be the first one in our family to graduate from college. Someday, you're going to be the first one to get the job that everybody feels good about. Someday, you're going to continue doing those things. So we came here with great expectations. And we need to realize those expectations and to stay with it. Because I want all the kids and everyone to know that you are loved. You are deeply loved. And once you realize that and internalize that, then it gives you the strength and the power to go further to realize that dream that's been laid out for you. So you start off with powered by a dream. That keeps you going, that gets you up in the morning. You realize that you have to be a student of the game because that is it. You have to set very high standards because that's what's expected of you. And then you have to lead by example because somebody is watching you. My daughter told me years ago when she was in the process of driving me crazy. She said, "Dad, it's my life. You know, I can do what I want." And so I did what I usually do. I wrote her a little poem and I slipped it under her door. And the title of the poem is "Your Life is Not Your Own." You cannot get through life without having an influence on somebody. Somebody will do something or not do something because you did it or didn't do it. And they will use you as an example. They say, "Well, she didn't have to do it. But they did it and they got away with it. So why do I have to do it?" You are leading by example. People are watching you. People have eyes on you. And as you do things, and you do things well, and as you excel, that will motivate them to say, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's what you want. To lead by example, for somebody to follow you. I was talking to a young man, and he wanted me to know straight up that he was selfish and he was out for himself. That was it. He didn't mince words at all. He said, "My father wasn't there when I was coming along. So guess what? I'm going to have some kids and I'm not going to be there." Okay? Nobody has ever done anything for me. So I'm not going to do anything for anybody else. Whatever makes me feel good, that's going to be the driver. And he was bitter. But he was resolved in what he was and wasn't going to do because of how his life had gone. And I said, "I understand how you feel. But let me suggest something to you. Why don't you say, the buck stops here, or it starts here?" So I gave him a little bit of a Sunday school lesson. I said, "I want you to be Abraham for a moment. I want you to be the one that says that even though my father was not there for me, I am going to be there for my offspring. Even though people didn't do for me the things that I would have loved for them to have done for me, I'm going to do it for them. Because down the road, somebody's going to look back and say, Uncle Leroy, my great-great-great-grandfather, he had all kinds of hard times and circumstances that he was going through. But even though that was the case, I said, you can start a whole brand new legacy, young man. And they will look up to you. And they will pass on that message to somebody else. Because one day you stood in the gap and you said, no longer. I will not do the things that others did because they did it. I am going to make a difference in the lives of others. You should have seen, you can see the wheels turning in his head. Because one of the things that we have to do is we have to change the way we look at things. In quantum physics, there is a phrase that says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So you can make a difference in that situation. If you're unlocking your leadership greatness, you realize that you have a very strong love and power for other people, and you want to make others better. It's not just about you. How can you make others better becomes the key. So I would say that, when I look at companies all over, and as you get higher within the organization, there's a trend that you notice. That people are surrounded by people that they know. People that they've known for a while. And they can trust them. And so they bring them along with them. So you need to know as many people as possible who are positive people, who can help you get somewhere. We can't be singular about the things we do. Asked class once, I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Young lady stood up and she says, I want to be a singer. She smiled and the light lit in her face, and you can see that she had a passion. Young man shot from the other side of the room, you can't sing? People started laughing, and they were just having a good time. I walked over to the young man, and I asked him very simply, I said, young man, have you ever heard her sing? No, sir. So why did you feel the need to step out and step on her dream? You did this because you wanted attention, but the attention shouldn't be on her. You have to be willing to encourage people. But with most of us, we need to figure out what's in it for us before we do things. So I say very clearly, if you're good in math, and you know the other person is not good in math, be willing to help them get better in math. And you have a friend for life. By the same token, if they're good in something and you're not, allow them to help you. Open up and receive it. Allow them to give them so that you can receive it. I say because you know when you get it, you got it. And nobody's going to walk up to you and say, I can tell by the size of your head that it took you a long time to get stuff. It doesn't work that way. When you have it, it's in your head, and you got it, and you're grounded, and you can use it to make a difference. But you need to help somebody else. And as you're helping them get better, and I use the example of the three young doctors on the East Coast that grew up together, and they said, look, we're going to be doctors someday. And they hung together, and they supported each other and so forth, and then they all became doctors. And I saw them one day at the National Medical Association conference before the book came out and before the series of their lives came out, and they were talking about how they used that together. And I said, that's what you need. Peer pressure is good if it's the kind of pressure that's going to help you become great. And if you're surrounded by people who are trying to put you in what they perceive your place to be, get away from them. Find that group of people, those 3 or 4 people that you can hang with, that you can study with, that you can grow together with. Because someday you're going to need a job, and they may be able to get you a job. Or someday you may have a job, and you may be able to offer them a job, which is better, being entrepreneurial. But you need to do this. You can't try to do this life thing on your own. Find the right people to associate with. Because they're the ones that are going to help you get there. Because you're going to have to serve people. And when you get outside yourself and start serving others, then your life becomes better. Because one of the things that you do as you get older, and those of us in the room who've gotten older, one of the things that you realize one day is that you want to know, what can I do to help somebody else? Where can I find a place where I can insert myself and make a difference? That is what you want to do. Growing up, there are 2 things that I really remembered well, and it really helped me a lot. One was love your neighbor as yourself. The other one was, if you want to understand somebody, and before you make a judgment about somebody, walk a mile in their shoes. If you loved your neighbor as yourself, and if you walked a mile in their shoes, we wouldn't be having these problems with bullying. Because we wouldn't want it, so therefore we wouldn't ascribe to it. We wouldn't have the inequality that exists in certain areas, in certain jobs, in certain companies, in certain neighborhoods. We wouldn't have that. Because we would be looking at things from the other person's viewpoint. Our relationships would be better. Because we would like to look at things from their side. And say, oh, I never thought about it that way. I never looked at it that way. Those are the kinds of things we need to keep in mind, because it makes it, we start serving others and helping them to get better and making their lives a lot easier. then we're putting in and we are unlocking our leadership greatness. And then we're doing the things. And when you unlock your leadership greatness and your leadership steps out, when there's inequality somewhere or injustice somewhere, you step up and say, how can I make a difference here? I hear people all the time say that I was in a meeting and somebody started telling racial jokes and started saying things demeaning somebody else. I got up, I left the meeting. Other situations when you're unlocking your leadership greatness, you will see people who are by themselves because others have not sat down with them for whatever reason. You step up and you walk across the room and you shake hands with them and then you ask questions and you get to know them so that you feel better about things. When you unlock your leadership greatness, then you hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. When you unlock your leadership greatness and you're listening to the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., you can see that injustice anywhere is bad everywhere. So you step in and you realize that we can make a difference. So we need leadership. We need more leaders. We need strong leaders. We need everybody to realize that there is leadership in me, and I need to unlock the leadership to make things happen. So that is what we need. That's my word for the day. To achieve the dream, to make your dreams, the dreams of your ancestors, and the dreams of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reality, you have to unlock your leadership greatness, and you will truly make a difference. Thank you.